In Excel, you can use the SUMIF and SUMIFs formulas to perform a sum calculation on certain data values in your range. All you need to know is how to specify the conditions that your qualifying data values have to meet. These tools can be very useful when creating subtotals in Excel. From my worksheet below, I notice that I have multiple order values. Within my worksheet, I also have a column labeled Paid in Advance. If I'd like to quickly add up the values that have not been paid in advance, I can use the SUMIF formula. This formula is useful if you have a criteria that needs to be met. You can automatically add those values. If the criteria is not met, those values will not be included in the sum. To create the SUMIF formula, I'm first going to select my cell above where I've created a summary table. From here, I'm going to insert the equal symbol followed by SUMIF. Once I've entered SUMIF with an open parentheses, I'm going to need to choose my range of values. Since I'm looking to find orders that have not been paid in advance, I'm going to go to the right-hand column and I'm going to select the complete range. Once I've done this, I can scroll back up and I'm going to insert a comma. Next, I'm going to need to specify my criteria. Since I'm looking for orders not paid in advance, I'm going to insert quotation marks followed by no, since this is what appears in my column. After I've done this, I'm going to insert a comma. Now I'm going to need to add my sum range, which will be the order value itself. To do this, I'm going to need to go back down and select the order value range. After I've done this, I'm going to scroll back up, close off the parentheses, and select Enter to calculate. So now I can see I can quickly calculate for my unpaid orders. Now, if I happen to change the criteria by selecting my cell, going up, and if I wanted to calculate for paid orders, I can quickly change this to yes, and select Enter to quickly get that calculation as well. Now, if you're looking to use the SUMIF formula with dates, you'll see below that I've already calculated my formula. Once I select the cell, I can go above and I can see that I have, again, my criteria range, which happens to be a date value. So if you're looking to total values in a date range, you'll need to have a date column within your worksheet. You can select that range, choose your criteria, which happens to be dates after a specific date in my criteria, and then again, I selected my order value range to add the sum. I can always change the date range to quickly calculate orders after a specific date. Now, if you'd like to go a bit further with your criteria and you'd like to add multiple criteria, you can use the SUMIFs formula with an S. To calculate this formula, I'm going to go down just below, insert equals, followed by SUMIFs and an open parentheses. Now, you'll notice with this formula that you'll need to select your sum range first. So I'm going to go down and choose my order value range. Once I've selected my range, I'm going to insert a comma, followed by my first criteria. Now, I'm going to look for unpaid orders yet again, and I'm also going to look for those orders after a specific date, so I'll be combining two different types of criteria. So first, I'm going to specify my criteria for unpaid orders, and in order to do that, I'm going to need to select my range again for my paid in advance column. Now, if I know the column coordinates, I'm going to quickly type in that range. After I've done that, I can insert a comma, and I'm going to specify my criteria. So since it's going to be not paid in advance, I'm going to insert no once again. Now, I'm going to insert another comma, and now I'll need to select my second criteria, which is going to be my order date range. So since I'm looking for orders after a specific date, I'm going to first need to select the criteria range, which is my order date column. And after I've done that, I'm going to scroll back up, insert a comma, and I'm looking for my criteria. To insert the criteria, I'm going to insert quotation marks, and since I'm looking for after a specific date, I'm going to put the greater than symbol, and then I'm going to insert my date. After I've done this, I can close off the quotation marks, close off the parentheses for the formula, and select Enter to quickly calculate. So now I can see I've added two different criteria, and with those criteria met, I'll have the sum of those values of the order. You can go even further with the SUMIFs formula by adding a range. So as you can see when I select my cell below where I've already completed my calculation, I've completed it with a date range, so I had to select my date column twice. Now, if you're using the sum-ifs formula, you can add multiple criteria, so in total I have 3 criteria. Even though I've selected the same criteria twice, I've just added a range with greater than and less than symbols as well as equals to include those dates. So now you've seen how to use the sum-if and sum-ifs formula to quickly add values that meet a specific criteria.